So we saw before that there's a burden of the tax. And when the tax comes in, typically the buyer is going to pay more and the seller is going to receive less than without that tax. But exactly how that tax is distributed across the two groups is the burden of the tax. And so the additional amount more the buyers pay, so it's the new price minus the old price divided by the tax. That's the percentage that the buyers are paying. And the sellers, it's the old price minus the new price they receive, which is the new price the buyers pay minus the tax. That's what the sellers receive, divided by the tax. So how does this vary across different taxes? I mean, is there any way we could know what the burden might be? Is it going to be 50-50? Is it going to be a big burden on the buyers or a small burden on the buyers and a big burden on the sellers? Well, what it depends on, it turns out, is something that we know already, and that's elasticity. So I'm going to draw some examples here. Let's take a perfectly inelastic demand. And then we have supply. And when here's our original price. And then when the tax comes in, the supply curve shifts up by the amount of the tax. And we have a new price. And you can see that the whole burden of the tax is on the buyers in this case. If you look at the new price minus the old price, it is the entire amount of the tax. So the sellers, the old price and the new price they receive, they're receiving the same amount, and they are, we're at the same quantity. So it's 100% a burden to the buyers and 0% to the sellers. This was inelastic demand. If we have elastic demand, so the buyers are really flexible and they will buy a lot at this price, but the price changes a little bit, they're not going to buy anything. In that case, this is our original price. This is 100% burden to the sellers. Because the price doesn't change at all. The new price the buyers pay minus the old price, it's 0. They're paying the exact same quantity. The sellers can't raise the price because they'll lose all their business, so they really have to eat the tax. The old price minus the new price received is entirely the amount of the tax. They just have to charge buyers the same, send that tax amount to the government, and then they get the old price minus the tax as what they get to keep. This is elastic demand. Perfectly elastic. This is perfectly inelastic. And we can draw a perfectly inelastic supply and a perfectly elastic supply. So what that look like, this is an inelastic supply, demand. Well, here it's going to be 100% burden to the buyers, again, because when we shift that supply curve up, it looks the same, like it's right on top of the old one. And so the price doesn't change. Oh, okay, so it's 100% burden, let's see, to the sellers, sorry. The price the buyers pay doesn't change, and the sellers collect it and they have to take out the tax, and they are getting less than before by the amount of the tax. An elastic supply with demand, this is the case where, oops, plus tax, it's 100% of the burden to the sellers, to the buyers. Okay, so this one is 100% burden to buyers. Okay, so the buyers are paying, the new price is different from the old price by the entire amount of the tax. It's not shared at all. The buyers are paying that whole difference. So what's going on here? What you can see from this pattern, we might rarely have extremely, perfectly inelastic, these situations, but the pattern is the same. Whichever side is more elastic has a lower burden. And the more inelastic side has a higher burden. So, by knowing elasticity of demand, it's really helpful to understand with more precision what's going to happen in a market when prices change, what will happen to quantities, what will happen to total revenues, and now we can see that it helps us understand what will happen when a tax is imposed. People don't like taxes. They don't want to pay higher prices, and so they will try to avoid the tax if they can. So what these patterns are saying is if you have elastic demand, elastic supply, you can't avoid it. You're stuck there demanding this quantity or supplying this quantity. You can't adjust. And so in that case, you're going to have the whole burden. And if you're more elastic, more flexible, you have options. You can substitute to something else. Then you're going to have a very light burden because you can escape, and so people are going to know that. The other side of the market will know that, and they will have to take the higher burden onto themselves. So let me know if you have any questions about the effect of elasticity on the burden of the tax.